Cardinals lost the season opener at home to a Patriots team without their starting quarterback, tight end, and a banged-up line. From the top down, the Cardinals organization is not pleased. See this behind us? Some think the sky is falling on Arizona. Team GM Steve Keim, one of them. He had strong words for the team in an interview with the Doug and Wolf Show on Arizona Sports 98.7 FM in Phoenix. Take a listen.
You wake up Monday morning with a loss, you're angry, disappointed, embarrassed, and that's the way we should all feel. Just didn't get it done, and a lot of reasons why we didn't get it done, and that needs to improve. It's certainly unacceptable. The sky is falling Monday, and that's the feel that all of us should have, and use that as a chip on our shoulder to make sure that it doesn't happen again.
Do you believe in the theory that sometimes there can be a good loss?
No. Not when you're playing a backup quarterback and they're missing some playmakers, and it's a game at home.
So before week one, we made our Super Bowl pick, Stephen A. I went with the Cardinals, and now after week one, the question is, are the Cardinals still a Super Bowl contender? Your thoughts?
Well, of course they are. They have the personnel and the coaching staff to validate their Super Bowl contention aspirations. The fact is that it was a bad night. It's a very, very bad night when you consider the fact that they were playing against a backup in Jimmy Garoppolo, who didn't have their number one weapon in Rob Gronkowski outside of Tom Brady. Essentially, the New England Patriots were without their two most formidable weapons and still beat the Arizona Cardinals. But let's also keep in mind, it is game one of the NFL season. As Max accurately pointed out, the great Bill Belichick had numerous weeks to prepare for this matchup, which is not something you're going to have for a bevy of other games during the regular season. And then let's also look into their personnel. You got the Honey Badger back, okay? He's one of your safeties, all right, along with Jefferson. You got Peterson as one of your corners with Williams as another. You got Mentor and Branch in terms of the linebacker spot along with Buchanan. You got Chandler Jones and Calais Campbell on the edges. Look, that's a defense. And when you think about them offensively, Larry Fitzgerald is just showing that he's got more life. Michael Floyd and John Brown are no joke. Duke Johnson is, not Duke, but I'm saying Derek Johnson, the brother can play. We all know how formidable he can be. Their offensive line is decent, and they're fresh off of an NFC championship game. So one game doesn't make a season. We understand that it's very early. We also understand and we appreciate, I think we should appreciate what the GM's saying. He's saying you should treat it like the sky is falling. You should treat it like it was a missed opportunity. You should treat it like it was a huge, huge problem for you to find yourself in this position, because there is no doubt they came up short, underachieved, and did all of those different things. But at the end of the day, it's one game. And it's the first game of the regular season going up against the great Bill Belichick, who had the entire offseason, all summer, training camp, preseason, etc., to prepare his backup quarterback for this one game. And so when you look at it from that perspective, I don't think there's any reason to hit the panic button. But I love the fact that the GM sounded like he's willing to hit the panic button, because it shows that they have expectations that they expect to be validated. And I like that, because that's what winners are made of.
For the second consecutive season, you look at the Arizona Cardinals and you say, this is the best overall team in the NFL, both sides of the ball. Where's the weakness, really? They're really a tremendous regular season team. But the indication that they're not actually Super Bowl contenders came in the first game this year and came in the last game they played last year. Even the game before that, they just squeaked by Green Bay. I mean, Aaron Rodgers almost pulled a rabbit out of a hat, and Green Bay did not have their full complement of players. That was not the Packers that are going to exist this year, and they barely got by them in overtime, and then got thumped by the Panthers, and then got beaten by a Patriots team. Not only did they not have Tom Brady or Gronkowski or their number one running back in Dion Lewis, they didn't have either of their starting tackles, and the Patriots beat them because Belichick had time to prepare for them. Well, guess what happens in the playoffs? Coaches have time to prepare. They can focus on you differently than they can in the regular season, and that's what the Cardinals are going to run into again. And I'm sorry, but Carson Palmer, who was prematurely anointed. I remember, going back, 10 years now? There's Peyton and there's Brady, and here comes Carson Palmer, and it didn't exactly work out that way. And now he's had a renaissance later in his career. And yet, when the lights shone brightest, he came up short. Now, I thought Seattle was going to win the Super Bowl, and I'm still going to ride with them, but that offensive line in week 1 may be a bigger problem than we thought. The Patriots in the AFC and the Steelers in the AFC, but the Steelers, certainly there are issues. The Panthers, you can argue, are still favorites. There are various teams. None of them are perfect. I think all of them have a better shot to win once the playoffs start, not to mention the Packers. Once the playoffs start, then the Arizona Cardinals. You need a quarterback to perform under pressure.
Well,
you need a coach to be able to game plan when the other coach also has time.
Well, first of all, a couple of things. You're going to have to define, and I say this rhetorically because I got a couple of other points I'd like to make, but you're going to have to define for me what your definition of contender is. A champion is a champion. A contender is somebody who ultimately loses to the champions. So when I look at the Arizona Cardinals, yeah, you didn't make the Super Bowl, but that's because you lost in the NFC Championship game to the NFC champion Carolina Panthers. And so to me, that's the definition of contender, which is what this subject was about. Secondly, when you bring in a bevy of other teams, whether it's Pittsburgh or Cincinnati, whether it's all of these other teams, the fact is you don't have to play most. You don't have to play anybody in the AFC come playoff time unless you make it to the Super Bowl if you're Arizona. And in the NFC, we saw Seattle struggle with Miami. We saw Green Bay struggle with Jacksonville. We see the NFC East, and we don't think much about any of those teams right now. And so I think, and then, of course, we see the NFC South. Oh, yeah, you got Carolina, and we can't ignore Jameis Winston and what he's capable of doing, or Drew Brees for that matter. But there's no doubt that Arizona can compete for with those teams. So I say that to say this. And then you point out, oh, well, there's time to prepare. Well, that's not necessarily so. Because in the playoffs, there's playoff games every week, just like they are during the regular season. If you're the division winner and the number 1 or number 2 seed, you get a bye week to prepare in all likelihood. And if you're not one of those 2 teams, but you're going up against one of those 2 teams, they get to prepare for you, but you got to prepare for somebody else and then go week to week because you've got games every week. So when you speak to the level of time that you have to prepare, that's not accurate for the playoffs in most situations. It's accurate for the Super Bowl, but it's not accurate for the playoffs.
If Arizona wins the division outright and gets a bye, yeah.
All right, but when you ask the question for contender status, I think it's clear they're a contender. I think it's clear they'll make the playoffs, and I think it's clear that nobody can summarily dismiss Arizona because of the potency of personnel that they have and what they're capable of doing.
I would say this. Let's get to your definition of contender. I agree with you. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to win a championship, of course, but that you will contend for one, not pretend. Right now, they look like they have the personnel. There's no doubt about it. Speedy receivers, sure-handed receivers, a top-flight kind of potentially breakout running back, a quarterback who puts up big numbers, a great defense. Like, they have the personnel, absolutely. But are they actually contenders? The Panthers thumped them in a way that tells me that's not a contender. That wasn't a close game. That wasn't tight. They squeak by Green Bay and they get thumped by the eventual NFC winners, but not the Super Bowl winners. And then follow that up with a loss to a totally depleted team. Is that a team, after the way Carson Palmer looked under the bright lights, that I believe can actually contend for a Super Bowl, or rather make the playoffs and lose to someone before the NFC Championship game? I think the latter.
There are plenty of teams. There are plenty of teams who got annihilated in an NFC Championship game over the years and were contenders. Nobody's sitting here and saying that the Arizona Cardinals should be the favorites to win the Super Bowl. But we were talking about them in preseason prognostications for a reason, because we know that they have the personnel to legitimately compete. And again, when you think about a team, think about what happened to Seattle in the first half against Carolina. All right, they got ramrodded, but ultimately lost that game. Now, Arizona got destroyed, and we get that 49-15 in the NFC Championship game. They didn't show up. All I'm saying to you, however, is this. A contender is, to me, a top 4 or 5 team in the NFL. And I think Arizona is one of those teams.
Yeah,
Molly thinks they're the best.
Yeah, go Bird Gang. Coming up next, though, we are switching gears here to the Vikings. The defense carried the team to victory in Week 1. Will we see Sam Bradford in Week 2? We'll tell you that after the break. The question is, who will be the Vikings starting quarterback in Week 2? Head coach Mike Zimmer said Monday he hasn't decided who will start against the Packers on Sunday night and isn't in any rush to choose a starter. Sean Hill played well enough in a win against the Titans on Sunday, but Minnesota did trade a first-round pick for Sam Bradford. Max, What does that say about Bradford?
Says he's been there for a week and a half, and it's an NFL offense. I don't care how easy it is. Oh, you're going to give the ball to Adrian Peterson. When they stack the box, it's not that easy, as we just saw. They have a great defense. Oh, you're familiar with this? No. He just got to the team. He was not in camp with him, nothing like that. It's going to take a minute for him to learn the offense. I said by week 3 he's going to start. But that doesn't mean anything if he doesn't start week 2. Stephen A., you know who Sam Bradford could be on the Vikings? It's possible that he's Jim Plunkett with the Raiders. I mean, it's possible. Both drafted #1 overall. Both won the Heisman Trophy. Both did kind of middling success, maybe below average, with the first team with which they played. Both had a stopover on another team briefly, and both wound up on teams with excellent defenses that appeared ready to win. Plunkett won 2 Super Bowls and a Super Bowl MVP. Bradford's in a very good situation. Just because he's not starting week 2, I don't think there's that much to read into other than it's an NFL team. You got to learn what the hell is going on there before you start.
Well, first of all, I would like to applaud you for connecting with our resident researcher, David Sabino, who's absolutely exceptional. I mean, it just shows your brilliance, Max Kellerman, to bring up some quarterback that was drafted #1 overall 45 years ago to make the comparison to Sam Bradford. I'm so touched. I mean, I learned something new every day from you. Congratulations with that.
When
but here's the reality,
when Sabino doesn't two-time me with you, I win every argument. Go ahead.
Actually, that explains why you think you win every argument
whatever it is.
when you've lost every argument. Because I rarely use David Sabino because I don't need him as much as you do, but I love him, and he definitely edifies my mind, and I appreciate him. But here's the deal, Max Kellerman. Here's what it comes down to. This is so weak on the part of Coach Mike Zimmer. It's pretty damn pathetic. You hid your quarterback in game 1 against the Tennessee Titans. You couldn't generate anything offensively. They stacked the box and made sure Adrian Peterson couldn't do anything and dared Sean Hill to throw the football. This is the Tennessee Titans that we're talking about, who were up 10-0 at halftime before they had a meltdown because they turned over the ball 3 times in a span of 7 minutes, giving up 2 touchdowns along the way, a pick 6 by Mariota, and then a fumble that was returned for a touchdown. That's how the Minnesota Vikings were scoring points on this particular day. Their offense was anemic. It wasn't that impressive. Sean Hill ain't the dude. Everybody and their grandmama knows it. And Zimmer doing everything that he can to sit up there and fool or to make people second guess who's going to be the quarterback for his team shows how much lack of faith he has in his offense. Just man up. It's your guys against our guys. It's my coaching against your coaching. It's mano y mano. Let's handle our business. That's the kind of confidence a coach should be displaying in his team instead of hiding who his quarterback's going to be until the very last minute because he wants to sit up there and make you wonder who you have to prepare for. It's just weak as weak comes. That's not what this is about.
This is not that complicated. The guy just got there.
Give Sam Bradford the job. Give Sam Bradford the job.
Ready for
Sean
the
Hill
job
ain't no
yet.
damn quarterback. Give Sam Bradford knowing 20% of the offense is better than Sean Hill. Give him the damn ball.
Let me get this straight.
And let him go. Listen, let me tell you. Listen. What did I just say? I didn't stutter. I said 20% of Sam Bradford is better than Sean Hill.
Let me get this straight.
Has
Sam Bradford had an injury history in the NFL? That's hampered his career?
Yes.
Yes, he has. You want him to get to a new team, new system, etc., and then expose him before he knows the playbook, before he knows his teammates. Expose him to harm's way when you have him under contract for 2 years and you just traded
When he first arrived, hold on.
Draft picks for him?
When he first arrived in Minnesota the other day, Pat Schumer is a guy that worked with him in both St. Louis and Philadelphia. I specifically highlighted that familiarity, which obviously assisted in Minnesota being interested in getting Sam Bradford to Minnesota to begin with. So you've got Kyle Rudolph, you've got Laquan Treadwell, you've got Stephon Diggs, you've got the best runner in football, and what we both agree is a pretty solid offensive line. And you're trying to tell me that you want to sit here in week 2, He's been there a week, and you want to second guess or make people believe you're wondering whether or not Sam Bradford can be there because of Sean Hill?
By your own, it has nothing to do with Sean Hill.
You might play quarterback better than Sean Hill.
That for sure.
I mean, come on.
This has nothing to do with Sean Hill. This has to do with the size of the investment they've made in Sam Bradford, the belief that he can compensate for the loss of Teddy Bridgewater, which may be a 2-year absence. Luckily, one of the reasons they traded for Bradford, as you pointed out a couple days ago, that because he's under contract for 2 years, Sam Bradford's expensive over that time, both in terms of what you pay him and what you gave up for him. You believe you're poised to win. It's not that you don't think. You're not sure that he's ready yet, that he knows the team well enough and the playbook well enough yet, Sam Bradford, to take over. So you might wait an extra week. And that's a problem because you don't want to sacrifice him on the altar of winning game 2 of the season when you plan on winning for the next 2 years? Listen. I think everybody's insulting the intelligence of Sam Bradford. We question Sam Bradford's durability. That's true. We question, does he have that it factor to be a winner? Yes, but we don't question his ability to throw the football. We don't question, whether or not it's going to, his intelligence in terms of comprehending the playbook. I mean, my God, Sean Hill is the quarterback. Sean Hill. Here, Sam, go learn all your teammates. Go learn the whole playbook and all your teammates in a week and a half. No preseason, no practice, no nothing.
Enough
and learn
from
the team.
you two. We want to hear from our first take fans.